So in this video course, we're going to cover how to create plan perspectives like what you see right here. And plan perspectives are great because they offer you an additional layer of information beyond just looking at a flat plan. It gives you, the spatial experience of the floor plan and of the space. And so it's similar to the prior video I made about section perspectives. It's the same method, but there's a couple things that you may want to watch out for. So let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn these layers off and just start all over from scratch. It might lag a little bit, so. And then we're going to go to our perspective view. I have some layers turned off right now. For example, I have a lot of vegetation right now. That's turned off, but I will turn that on later. So the first thing that you're going to do is we need to make a clipping plane, right? So right now, this is like a residential design, very simple, just one level residential design for the sake of this video. And I have, I would say, like a decent amount of information, like, frames and doors and knobs and wall thicknesses and insulation. I'm pretending this is like a cast in place concrete with insulation in between. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a clipping plane. I have one here already, but I'll just make a complete brand new one. So let me just go ahead and hide this. So if I do clipping plane, and I'll just use the exact same point from right here, and we'll go like this. Great. So this is where our clipping plane is. And let me just put this on a clipping plane layer. So let me go here and do clipping plane. Let me switch to the clipping plane. Okay, great. The next thing that we're going to do is I'm actually also going to make a plane. So if I type in plane, I'll just make a plane right here. Okay. Okay. I want to do orient camera to surface for my next command. But I don't want to do it in my perspective view. I actually want to go to my top view. So we'll go here with my top view. And we have this situation here. So first off, what I want to do is go here and I want to activate this in my top as well. Great. And so we have our plane here. So the reason why I want to do my top view is because it keeps everything nice and straight. So what I'm going to do is right now I'm in top view. You see where it says projection? I want to make it perspective. There you go. So right now it's in perspective. I do not want to orbit at all. I'm still not in a perspective section yet, but everything is just nice and straight on top view. So the next command I'm going to do is orient camera to surface. And select surface to orient camera for. I'm going to click on this surface here. And you want to make sure that the arrow is pointing. It's hard to tell, but I'm pretty sure the arrow is pointing up. There you go. Okay, so now I am in perfect section or plan perspective where everything is straight and aligned to the clipping plane. Okay, and so you do not want to orbit anymore. I mean, the lens length is fine. 24 millimeters is good. You can go even a little wider if you want to. So here I am like this. You want to capture your view, like the angle you want to get it at. I'm in wireframes. I'm going to go to shaded. Now, what's really important is that you want to save this view immediately after you establish the view, because once you orbit, you lose the view and you lose the perspective, like the planned perspective, because everything's unaligned. So once you have the view you like after you orient camera to surface, you want to do name view, and we'll just call it like SP, SP1. Great. So we have this view. Now, on here, I have a no cut layer. This is my trees and all the vegetation. So right now it's already being cut. On Rhino 8, for your clipping plane, if you go to its properties, you can add objects that you don't want to include in the clipping plane. So if I go to layers, I'm sorry, you want to go to exclude selected and then go to layers, and then you can do no cut and then do OK. So right here, you see how everything is showing? You see that? Everything that I included in here is not being cut by clipping. I want this, I'll go back and I will, I'll probably trim this off in my Make 2D, but this is typically how I want my section or my plan perspective to look. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make 2D. Let me just go ahead and do wireframe. This might lag a bit, so I might fast forward. So let me just go here and select everything like this. and let me do make 2D. And so all of these settings here are fine. Maintain source layers, tangent, definitely maintain source layers. Tangent edges, we do not want hidden lines unless you want them. Scene silhouettes was not necessary. We can do that in Illustrator. Definitely clip plane intersections. Viewport rectangle is helpful for scaling and referencing. Group output is optional if you want to group things together. That can be bothersome sometimes for me. So I'm going to go ahead and do make 2D, and then I'll fast forward to once it establishes the make 2D, because this might take a bit with all the trees and blocks and stuff like that. So here's our make 2D export, as you can see over here. Again, it didn't cut the layers that I asked it not to in the clipping plane option that you saw before. So I'm going to go ahead and export this to an Adobe Illustrator file. And I'll call it Adobe Illustrator and save. And then you can do it to scale, but I'm just going to do the snapshot of the current view. CMYK is fine. If it's only digital presentation, you can do RGB. I definitely want to order my layers because there's going to be a lot of layers on here. Hatches export as solid fills, and that's fine. You can do okay. And so I'll just cut over to the video, and we'll go over to the Adobe Illustrator side of this. Okay, so here we are in Adobe Illustrator, and what I want to create here is a monochromatic floor plan in a different color. So maybe we'll use like blue. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select everything, and I'm going to give it a light line weight. This might lag a little bit because the information on here is just pretty heavy. So I'm going to go in here, we'll make everything 0.1, and then I'll give everything like this, maybe like this cyan and K value tone. So if I go here, we'll just start off as everything as white. And then we'll give cyan maybe like 80% and 35K. So 80% cyan, 35% K value. Let me just click out here. Great. So this is how everything looks right now, as like this blue floor plan. And then let me go to my layers. Don't be overwhelmed by this, but everything is ordered. That's why when you do the export, you say order layers. We already know that clipping plane intersections are going to be the darkest, so that's fine. But other than that, for example, I have this on a layer called soil. This one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of them. And I actually want these to be the lightest on here because they're very dense. So if I go here, I want to make the color maybe like 40 and maybe 40% cyan and like 10% K. So that's going to be pretty light. And I'll probably give them like a dashed line look as well. You see, like we definitely want hierarchy on here. And so if I go here, I mean, to be honest, I won't give it a dashed line. We'll just keep it as is. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to, give hierarchy to my cut lines, right? So if I go here, and then so we know that we can give this layer here. We have all of those, and then let me actually turn off the soil layer because that's going to take up a lot of memory. So if I go here, let's see, we can actually select these, right? So like, let me select this one as well. Let's scroll down. It's this one. And then let me just select this one and see. That's that one. I can hold Control to select multiple like that. Great. And so I actually want to go ahead and duplicate these. So if I go over here, I'm going to duplicate. I hold Alt if you're on Windows. I hold Alt like that. Nice. And let me just go ahead and just close this off. And let me just draw a line here and close that off. Draw a line here, close this off. I'm going to live paint this, and I want to have it on a separate layer, and you'll see what I'll do. Great, perfect. This is what we want. This is exactly what we want. So then I'm going to go here, and I'll just select everything, and I'll do K for live paint, right? And I'll just so I can see what's being filled. Let me click here. I'll just fill this, fill this, fill this, fill this. Fill this, fill this. As you can tell, I'm not filling the middle yet because I want the middle to be a different color. Oops, I forgot this gap here. We'll come back and fix that. Let me just go ahead and fill this in as well. Okay, so to fix this right here, right? Like let's say there's a gap in here. I can just go into here and just add a line, right? And just go here and go Object, Live Paint, and Merge. And then if I do I want to sample this one and go back here. And that will film like that. Great. So we have this live painted, and then so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this as a live paint just in case I ever want to change it for reference. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to do Object, Live Paint, Expand, not release, expand, and then I'm going to ungroup this, right? And I think I have to ungroup it a couple more times. Ungroup. Let me see what I have. Great. I want to ungroup it one other time. Great. So I want to take this one. I can also go here. I can go to Select Fill Color. There you go, like that. And I'm gonna group these together, like that. So that it's its own separate entity, right? So that's its own fill color. You see? And then I can also click here, and then just click here, and do Control G for group. Awesome. That's the installation layer. Okay. So here we can also go to the Pathfinder if we wanted to, and we can unite this. So this is all one piece. If I go to unite, you see how this is now one piece. So if you go to your Pathfinder, if you don't have, you go to Window, Pathfinder. Right here, there's one called Unite. And so Unite will, anything that's intersecting, it will combine it as one continuous line for you. So that's really helpful. And you'll see why we're doing this. And so we have this layer here that's also post-shade. Let me just go here. See, I don't want the line work. I just want the fill because I'm going to separate the line work and stuff like that. Okay, so I actually do not want this to be this color fill. I actually just want it to be white. And so let me just switch this. And then I want it to be a white fill. But for the line color, I actually want this to pop more and make it darker. So instead of 80-35 like everything else, I'm going to make it 100 and for the cyan, and I'm going to make it probably 50 for the K. So that is just a darker tone. And then we'll bump this up to, let's see how 3 points look. Sometimes you can look, see that looks a little too unrefined. So we'll do 1.75. Let's see how that looks. You have to play around with this a little bit. It's not bad. And then I can just select this. I want to give this actually a hatch pattern, but for now I'll just match this. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to take these two layers and I'm going to cut it. Now I'm going to make a new layer in the very top, and I'm going to call it poche, or you can give it like, you know, a thick line, whatever you want to call it. But just you want to be on a separate layer, and then I'll just do Control F to paste in place. And so I'll take this one, and I'm going to move this on top of everything. Right here. There you go. So you see how that now pops like that? We want that. We want to read it like that. This hierarchy is so important. And then this one here, move this in here. Like that. Great. Now, for that middle section, I want to actually give this like a hatch. So if I go to my swatches right here, and I go here and I go to patterns, and let me do lines. I just want, I mean, honestly, it doesn't, we can modify it. So let's just see how this looks here. That's fine. So let me just close this, and we can scale them. And so I want this to be like 45 degrees. So I'm going to do it like this. And I'll show you how we can quickly modify this. So this will not have any stroke to it. So I'll click on this and I'll just do I for the sample tool like that. Perfect. And so I also want this to, well, let's actually give this a stroke. I think it's important we give it a stroke. So because I don't want it to be open right here. You see how it's open right there? I don't like that. So we'll give it a 1 point. And let's just see. Yeah. We'll actually keep it. So, okay. Great. So this is what we have. And if you don't like this aesthetic, obviously you don't have to use it. But I just like because it kind of demarcates the actual like insulation layer. Actually, we can use the gridded hatch instead. I'm scaling this down so that it's a little bit more dense. There we go. And then I might give this like a slight opacity. Of maybe like 50% or maybe 80%. So that it fades a little bit. There you go. Awesome. Okay. There's other things that are cut, like for example, the glass is being cut, the frames are being cut. So if we go here, we can always just go down to everything clipping plane intersections, right? So, and I can just click here as well, like that right there. I know. So I can make this, I'll just make it 1 point like that. And then the frames are being cut. And these are really close together. So I'll make this like 0.75. There you go. And we can fill these in if we want to. I can select all these and fill them in if I wanted to. But you see how now everything is being cut here, everything's being cut there. And then here, I think, let me see if that selects. Okay, that's been selected. Fantastic. So basically, everything is cut. I mean, that's pretty much it in terms of the line weights and stuff. Like you just want to make sure that you have very good hierarchy. I mean, this is a little crazy with the block, but this block is just crazy. If I go here, let me see. Yeah, the block is just insane here. I could have selected a better block, to be honest. But I mean, this is how you basically would do like monochromatic, but non-black images. You want to actually play around with the color of the line, not just the line weights. And so if we go back and turn on the soil layer, there you go. Okay, now what I want to do next actually is I just want to check it with the soil. I'll turn it off. I want to add like maybe like a floor hatch onto this, So let me just show you a couple things. Let me go here. Let's go to, let me turn this off. And to keep things consistent, we can create our own custom hatch. But before all this, let me just go ahead and save this file. So in our swatches, if we go to our swatches right here, we can create a custom swatch, right? So like, let's say I want this to be like a wood flooring hatch, right? I can go here and I can create a line like this, right? That looks like that. And I'll just do something arbitrary at first. And let's see. I can go to my align and I just want to distribute them equally like this. And then let me see what the height is. So the height is 1.01319. I want to make this a square. So let me just unlink it. Let me paste this here like that. Nice. Cool. So, and we can just increase. Well, no, I'm going to keep it like this, to be honest. And so what I'll do is I can just group this. Very simple. And if I go to my swatches, I can take this and literally drag it right here. So now this is a swatch, you see? And so if I select this, and I select this. Let me switch it. You see how this is now a swatch? That's that simple. You can make custom swatch because I want to keep everything consistent, right? So like, let's say these are like wooded planks, you know? So now what I want to do is, let me just zoom out a bit, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to duplicate it here, right? And I'm going to go like this. I'm going to do K, right? And I'm just going to click in here. That's fine. That's okay. There's just so much geometry in here. That's why. You see? Now if I hatch in here, it's going to hatch everything like that. Perfect. And but see, I want to make this more dense. Like I want this to feel like actual. So if I press I to sample it, and then if I press K, there you go. See how it's much closer together? Maybe I want the planks to be even closer than that. So let me just scale this down even a little more. Nice. And if I do again I sample it, I, and then K. There you go. So now this kind of feels like a nice wooden hatch, you know? Again, we can do the exact same thing with like soil conditions, right? I can do soil dots, right? So if I do the pencil tool right here, let me just zoom in right here, make sure that my fill is selected. I can just go in and select things like this. Let me just give it a fill like that. This. I know you can't see them, but I'm just making things that are random. Let me go ahead here, select all of these like that. And let's just give it a stroke. And we'll say 0.1 like that. I mean, no one's going to really see the details of these at all. So this is if you want to do your custom hatch in the exact same color. And then I can go here and do Control G for group, and then again go to my swatches and just drag it in here like that. And so if I go like this, if I do a rectangle and I have this, and I want that to be the fill, like that, you see? And then we can scale this down, obviously, if you wanted to. So if I go, let me sample this. This is like, little rocks and soil and stuff like that. You have this. Oops. Like that. Right? But we can do it even more. Like we can make it more dense. I'm kind of reiterating the process so you understand how it works. I do I, A. That's way more dense, you see? Like that. You can also use the patterning tool. So if I do object live paint, expand it. You can duplicate it to keep it, but I'm just going to expand it for now. And I do ungroup. And if I go to my layers and I do a new layer, I want to keep it under my poche, and I want to call it uh, surface textures. There we go. So these are all the surface textures. I don't really need. I just want this. I want this. I'm going to paste it in here, surface textures. I'm going to group it. I pressed Control Y, which is outline view, and that helps me see all of the exact outlines of the shapes and stuff like that. You see? I do Control Y, and it saves memory too. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is add the exact same soil hatch that we created for the surroundings around the trees and around the residential design. And it's going to be the same exact process where we'll do a live paint and then an expand and then an ungroup and then just move it over into the actual drawing. So I'm probably going to fast forward through the process because it's the exact same process. The only thing I'm going to do is that I'm just going to make a border around the actual residential design so that the only thing I'm taking is the trees and the two borders so that it's easier to hatch around, and then it'll be the exact same process. So again, I'm probably going to fast forward through this process so that it doesn't take up too much time. Great, this is what I want. I want just the hatch exclusive of this, so I don't want this anymore. And if I ever want to go back and edit the hatch, I can do it now. So I'm going to do Control Y just to save some memory. And I can drag it from this point, this anchor point, up to here. Like this. And then on my layers, I want this to be on the surface texture layer. So let me do Control X. And then let me just click on surface texture, Control F. Great. Now on the surface texture layer, I want to actually fade it. So if I do, let me just do Control Y. And let me actually just turn off this layer because just to speed things up. So I want these to actually be quite faded, like maybe 50%. I don't want it to be too strong because I want the texture, the vegetation to pop more, you know? Maybe even further. Yeah, this is how I want it. And so, yes, just like this. And then we turn this back on. There you go. Yeah, great. This is beautiful. So this is how like the monochrome floor plan would look like, you know? And with labels, it'll look really nice. We'll go ahead and add some labels on here, you know? Um, we'll call it annotations. And I typically like to do like Arial. So you can do. And then if I go to my text formatting, I like to do all caps. I like to have very wide tracking, like 150 tracking. And I like it to be proportional, so maybe 10. And then I'll do Arial. We'll do regular for now. And then the color, again, we're gonna match the color, so we'll do 80. I don't want to compete with the section, so I'm not gonna make it as dark as the section. We can make this smaller. And I mean, it's nice if you add more layers of information on here, you know? Let me go ahead and lock everything else. Let me turn this off. Okay, so it's nice to add layers of information on here, you know? So like living and then like the square footage, I don't know. These are just random numbers, so excuse, you know. Paragraph, I want it to be centered. These things matter because it gives it, you know, it helps offset the drawing, you know, with actual information. And then color, I might bring it down to like 70, 20. And then also, I would probably add dimension strings on here just to give it that layer of technicality. You could do it in Rhino if you wanted to. I would actually recommend doing it in Rhino. But I mean, just to do it on here real fast, I think it's nice to just give things a layer, like a technical feel to. I'm not being accurate right now. Go to align and just align the blocks like this. And then we'll just match. You match. That's true. Okay. So I think some of these are duplicated. Yeah. Let me just bring this down a bit. And then if I go here for my stroke, I can give these, solid dots on both sides. Or you can do ticks, it's your choice. Link them. Let's see how it looks. That's nice. Like that. Just bring this down. Again, I would probably recommend doing this in Illustrator, to be honest. Or, excuse me, in Rhino. But I'm just thinking about this as I'm doing the video. But I can show how easy it is to do it in Illustrator as well. So I just completed, most of the dimensions. I could have added more dimensions like right here on the door, but I just want to show you just the general gist of how it looks like with dimensions. As you can tell, when you add more layers of detailed information, whether it's dimensions or labels, it starts to make the drawing feel more intentional, which is really important. So I'm going to go ahead and export this as a JPEG or as a PNG. And what you see here is nothing compared to you see the final export. The final export is going to be it's going to be very light. There's gonna be a lot of hierarchy, more hierarchy in the line work than what you see here, and things will pop more. So I'm gonna fast forward through this and just export to the final product or final results. So these are the final plans. So you can see this is the final export. And as you can tell, there's a lot of hierarchy. Things are a little light. We could have made things a little bit darker, but as you can tell, there's a lot of hierarchy where you're reading levels of information. Like if you see here, like you can see the tree work all here. This is all the tree work. This is just me zooming in. Like on a digital presentation, you would probably zoom in. This block is just out of control. I should have picked a better block than this. But even here, like you see, even though I had the trees overlapping, like you can still read clearly what's going on. The same thing over here. And again, when you start to add dimensions onto these things, it really makes it feel like a technical drawing, like there's some drawing intent in here and a lot of control over what you're doing. And again, you see the labels, again, gives a layer of technicality. I think if you just had line work, which is fine, but I think when you add labels and dimensions, it's more for like aesthetic purpose. I mean, dimensions is also for like actual true human scale and understanding the space, but it also just helps with creating a composition for the drawing. Again, like you don't want your landscape to be overwhelming. I think I could have made it a little bit darker, but again, you don't make it too dark that you start to compete with the plan. Uh, so yeah, I hope you found this helpful. If you have any comments or questions, just leave it in the comment section below. And if you found this video helpful, please subscribe so we can really help grow this channel. Okay, thank you.